account of Russian self-harm, or at least the harm done by the Kremlin. If we are to move beyond polemics, it is crucial to examine how Russians feel and think about their country and the world. Surely a prerequisite for judgment, regardless of whether one lauds or criticizes Putin and his administration. Even the critics, I am one, must recognize that Russia has a lively society simmering with zest and potential. Although Russian affairs have taken a menacing pathway, there have always been alternative routes that many of its citizens have wanted to pursue. They and their leaders, however, are at one in feeling a strong resentment about the way that they and their people have been dealt with by the West. Though millions of Russians dislike the harsh, corrupt ways of their rulers, there is also a widespread opinion that the Putin administration has restored dignity and authority to the country. Like most states, Russia has much diversity in the attitudes of its people. Its ruling group has made a strategic choice to restrict civil rights and challenge America. Even so, Russia is still not as unfree in politics, the media, and IT communications as China, Saudi Arabia, or North Korea. Though it would be foolish to count upon a complete transformation of Kremlin policies even after Putin leaves power, the option of permanent no change is unrealistic. Even if it takes decades, change will happen, and the rulers know they can never take the patience of the Russian people for granted. For years after the USSR's collapse in 1991, it was usual to regard Russians as perennial losers. Their economy and armed forces were in tatters. They had given up control of Eastern Europe and found themselves dispossessed of the other 14 republics of the former Soviet Union. But when Putin became president in 2000, a rise in revenues from oil and gas exports benefited the economy, and the new administration followed up the invasion of Chechnya in 1999 by stamping hard on political opposition across Russia. Between 2003 and 2005, when color revolutions took place in favor of democratic accountability in Ukraine, Georgia, and Kyrgyzstan, and the Americans pursued their plans to install an anti-missile defense system in East-Central Europe, Putin began to confront Washington. President Barack Obama, the Democratic politician who succeeded George W. Bush in the White House in 2009 and announced a reset of America's Russian policy, failed to improve the climate. Frost turned to ice in 2014 when Putin sent his army to occupy Crimea. Dominant opinion in the West blames Putin, the Russian leadership, or even Russia as a whole. Russians themselves have undergone a steady restriction of their political and civil rights and have experienced their country's increasing pariah status. Yet Putin is still popular in Russia after nearly 2 decades in power. His percentage rating admittedly fell to the low 60s in 2018, well down from its peak in 2015, after he had annexed Crimea, but it remains at a level that most of the world's leaders would envy. Putin and his team have intentionally disrupted the order of world politics. This is not a secret. They admit as much themselves. They have also set about neutralizing political opposition, media criticism, and public protest in Russia by fair means or, more usually, foul. But how has this happened without provoking greater unrest at home? What is the role of the security agencies? And what part is played by TV channels, press, and the Internet? Indeed, what kind of political order exists in Russia? Does it merely wear the apparel of democracy without being democratic? Is it really an autocracy, and if so, is it individual or collective in nature? But why is there so much repression and corruption? Why has Chechnya suffered such brutalization? Moreover, what factors led Putin to decide on the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the intervention in the Syrian civil war? Or to license covert interference in the politics of America and the European Union? And what is the significance of the Chinese card in Russian hands? These are tantalizing questions that intersect and complicate each other. One view is that America and the European Union could have proceeded with greater restraint and circumspection. Other observers heap the